Dick was on his way home from work one day. He was on Harrison Avenue near Dudley Station, just driving along when a group of black youths apparently just rushed out from the sidewalk, stoned his windshield. They broke the windshield. Dick stopped the car, and the youths dragged him out of his car and pummeled him until he was unconscious.
We had a helper, a family helper. She started at the beginning of the movement, fully supported the movement. Then one day she received a letter that her son, working at a remote province, being put into prison because of political reasons.
Throughout our history, there have been many civil uprisings. Some of the largest among them have been the Cultural Revolution in China and the Civil Rights Movement in the United States.
The Boston busing crisis was an event in the civil rights movement that started in 1974 after a court order by Judge Arthur Garrity ruling that schools in Boston had to be desegregated. This forced schools from traditionally all black and all white neighborhoods of similar socioeconomic class to swap students.
The court order was in 1974 to integrate the schools in the fall of that year.
The Cultural Revolution was a movement that enveloped the whole of China from 1966 to 1976. During this time, Chairman Mao, the leader of China, used radical reforms to try and punish those who he deemed not true communists. However, without specific guidelines, almost everyone became a target for the violence and harassment of this movement.
The movement started as a rule of the mobs because it overthrew all levels of governments or against all levels of governments. But on the other hand, the topmost government still controlled part of it, or at least one person controlled it, that's Chairman Mao. So
Both of these historical events were the direct result of government action, and they led to dire violence. While Chairman Mao influenced the public by publishing his book of quotes called The Little Red Book and encouraging local protests, Judge Arthur Garrity acted similarly in Boston by taking complete control over the school district. The difference, though, is that in China, the government supported the violence and rebellion, whereas in Boston, the government tried to contain it.
The Flag incident on City Hall Plaza started a series of retributive attacks against whites in random areas of black Boston neighborhoods. And one of them involved Dick Polite.
The violence in Boston was mirrored across the world in China as people were targeted not for being black or white, but for being supposedly anti-revolutionary or anti-communist.
my grandparents were targeted because my grandpa was very high level professor, and so basically to the degree that people that were saying the more knowledge you have, the more counter-revolutionary you become.
While the government took an active role in both these movements, there were many civilians who participated as well. In fact, while the government may have sparked these movements, it was the mob mentality of the people that drove them.
The kids that attacked Dick Polite, it was, if any one individual in that group might not have dared to do it. If they had, but with 3 or 4 of their peers, and one inciting the others, and saying we have to do something, and not wanting to be left out.
Not only was there mob mentality, but fear of ostracization as well.
Speaking out directly against the movement, meaning you would be put in prison. So very few people would actually speaking out in public against it.
Mob mentality was a dangerous force in these movements, for it not only drove and perpetuated the violence, but it also stopped bystanders from standing up and speaking out.
Dick was a victim of other people's inactions or demagogic behavior.
And everybody would, would give a speech in saying support of the things. We didn't really necessarily believe in it, even myself. we knew that that was the only safe way to say things.
An estimated 1 million people died during the Cultural Revolution, and similarly, the violence of the Boston busing crisis was just one part of a history full of racial violence. In both these movements, while those who committed violence clearly deserve some blame, we must ask whether the same can be said for all the bystanders. If these bystanders and moderates took action against the movements, these terrible things might have been prevented.
Are those bystanders responsible for getting swept up by the mob mentality, or even for letting the fear of ostracization stop them? There's no clear answer to this question, as really it's just a matter of opinion. These conflicts within a nation are almost more horrifying as they reveal the nastier parts of human nature, showing us that people are willing to not only take up arms against other countries, but can be just as violent against their fellow citizens, neighbors, friends, and even family. Civil uprisings have long been an important part of every civilization's history, but when they leave more scars than progress, we can only learn from the lessons of their survivors and hope to not repeat their mistakes.